जनाब सैद मिज़्ज़त माब, प्रो वाइस चांसलर साहब, डॉक्टर अहमद साहब, respected professor, and the address, keynote address of this Professor Chandrasekhar Sahab from Department DU, Delhi. आज के मेहमानान एजाजी में से मैं पहले या मुस्बित बात कहूँगी कि हमारे यहाँ मौजूद पद्मश्री प्रोफेसर अब्दुल वही साहब से इल्तिमास है कि शनशीन पर तशरीफ ले आए और प्रोफेसर इर्तिजा करीम साहब की माजरत आपकी नजर, वो अपनी मसरूफियात की बिना पर नहीं आ सके हैं, लेकिन शहर के वक्फ बोर्ड के शिया मेंबर आगा निसार हुसैन पहुंचने वाले हैं इंशाल्लाह। हमने मतलब उनसे दरख्वास्त की कि मेहमान तो वो अगर आ जाते हैं तो फिर हम उन्हें भी एहसास। इजलास की कार्रवाई को आगे बढ़ाते हुए सबसे पहले क़िरात कलाम पाक के लिए मैं शुबे फ़ारसी मौलाना आज़ाद नेशनल उर्दू यूनिवर्सिटी के रिसर्च स्कॉलर मकसूद हुसैन शाह से दरख्वास्त कि वो आय मुबारका की तिलावत करें और तर्जुमे से हमें नवाजें।
अस्सलामु अलैकुम जमीअन व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। कुरान मजीद के सूरह की आयत नंबर 12, 13 और साथ ही साथ चंद आयात इब्तदा से सूरह अलक के आप हज़रात के सामने क़राअत करने का शर्फ हासिल हुआ है।
खुशामदीद बे हमें हुज़ार गिरामी व बेमौक़े ईद नौरूज़।
औज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। वसख्खर लकुमुल लैला वन्नहारा वश्शम्सा वल्क़मर والشمس والقمر والنجوم مسخرات بأمره اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم كلا إن الإنسان ليطغى رآه استغنى صدق الله العلي العظيم وصدق رسول النبي الكريم
खुश आमदीद बे हमें हुज़ार गिरामी व बेमौक़े ईद नौरोज़ तबरीकात समीमान अर्ज़मी नुमायम तशक्कुर फरावान के हमें शुमा बे इन हमायश बैनुल-मिलली रौनक अफरोज़ी वो मेहमानान गिरामी बेवीजे के आज सरासर किश्वर वो आज बिरून हम तशरीफ़ आवर्दन सिपास फरावान मिनमायम मोहतरम सदर मोहतरम साहब से इल्तिमास के साथ इजाज़त के साथ कुछ सेमिनार से मुताल्लिक़ अर्ज़ करना चाह रही हूँ। As we all are aware that the science and technology has reached its zenith today, and it is influencing every sphere of life. All the disciplines of knowledge, even non-scientific disciplines, are also adopting the scientific approaches. And the impact of science and technology can be seen in every sphere of knowledge and education. Methods of teaching, social behavior, medical sciences, business, cooperative life, and other disciplines as well. However, if we look back in medieval centuries or earlier as well, the impact of science was very much, but in a different manner. Role of physicians and astrologers, philosophers, and artisans cannot be denied in medieval courts. According to Chahar Mikhala, the very well-known and celebrated treatise on 4 personalities who are the most important under a king, among the 4 most important characters under the monarch were astrologer and physician, along with the poet and the dabir. Tabib and Munajjim were the scientists of those times, making researches to their known world, while artisans were employing techniques and they were making advances in diamond cutting, building structures, making inks out of gems, making decorative and useful atoms using various technical process. which have been recorded in manuscripts. At the outset of this seminar, I want to bring your focus that the Indo-Persian sources are also available in scientific and technological literature also. Persian is not confined to the poetry and Sufism only. It has contributed to the medicine, to the physical sciences, physics, algebra, and many more. So Indo-Persian sources on sciences and technology include the subjects such as Unani medicine, diseases, treatments, glossaries of medical terms, food and nutrition, glossaries of medical herbs, veterinary subjects such as study of horses. The useful animals were studied and taken care of. So horses, its care, attributes, treatments of diseases, training of various uses, for various uses. Elephants, pigeons, birds, and their treatment and domestication was also recorded in manuscripts. Physical sciences, which include astronomy, astrology, mystical calculations under Ramal, Jafar, all the knowledge was full of importance for them. The calendars made for yearly and influencing the day-to-day life of the monarchs and the people as well. Technological subjects like irrigation, water supply, architecture, ventilation techniques in building. Earlier buildings were implying the technology which we are researching for them. Now it is open for researches in modern times, but they have done it and they have set an example that eco-friendly and human life can be very much useful for not only nature but also the humanity. The aim of this seminar is to bring into the focus the variety of dimensions available in Indo-Persian sources, highlighting the Persian manuscripts as essential sources and opening new avenues of interdisciplinary researches. So keeping in the view of importance of interdisciplinary researches, in present scenario, Department of Persian Manu is focusing on serious researches from all aspects of Persian language, literature and culture. Scholars are engaged to work on Persian manuscripts, historiography, and catalogs are prepared from the various interdisciplinary subjects such as Unani medicine, astrology, geography, travelogue, lexicography, and so on. In short, for medieval Indian society, the Persian manuscripts has emerged as a source for our nation's heritage. So, with this short notice, I would like to welcome again, and formal welcome will be done by our students of the Department of Persian by presenting bouquets. Afsar Qureshi will present the bouquet to chair of the session, Pro Vice Chancellor Sahab. Dr. Shakil Ahmed Sahab will be presented by the bouquets. Saira will present the bouquet to our guest of honor of this session, Padma Shri Professor Abdul Wahid Sahab, former director of Central Research Institute of Unani Medicine, Hyderabad. He is recently awarded Padma Shri. So we congratulate on behalf of the department and university also. Kanis Fatima will be presenting bouquet to our guest, Professor Chandrasekhar Sahab, who will be keynote address. Thank you, students. Already we are so late, so making no other delay, I would request our keynote speaker, Professor Chandrasekhar Sahab, to speak about the theme of the seminar and oblige us.
Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. Shakil Sahab, distinguished scholars, students, usually in the realm of Persian studies, science as well as its implication in the form of technology. It also reflects that, as usually in 4 or 5 days back, there was a conference of Alami Urdu conference, and the majority of the speakers in the inaugural session said people learn Urdu for ghazal and musiqi, like Urdu is only for that. In the same manner, Persian is also referred either for the revenue system records or the like that. But it is not that. And there is a huge corpus apart from literature and such subjects. There is a 14-volume catalog compiled only on the manuscripts of Persian in Pakistan by late Professor Munzavi. This collection shows how many sources on science and technology were compiled in Persian literature, especially in Indo-Persian field, not in Iranian or the other Persian-speaking areas. There may be reproduction of those, but majority are from the Indo-Persian areas. So when Professor Aziz Banu, in fact, sent an invitation initially for participation in this conference, and many of those who had received, first they asked what kind of the new theme it is. Because usually in Persian studies, we may have read some portion of Char Makala as she mentioned, or certain terms in Khaqani or in others in the poetic realm, either from the music or the Najum or the Tib, but not any selection from these areas in our courses are incorporated. If one has to read it, one has to read it separately. Fortunately, in last almost 25 years, in compilation of a 10-volume ongoing lexicographical work known as a Farhang-e Aryan from Persian to Hindi, English and Urdu, we came across a number of words, phrases on various non-literary terms, and to get the equivalents of these, we were forced to study many things. Whatever the science I had studied up to my 11th standard prior to 73, obviously studying Persian and other subjects, I had forgotten that. Then again, we had to scratch our mind and find certain equivalents. Fortunately, teaching Persian sources to many scholars and students of history and the relevant areas, because many do work in the field of the history of science also, or the related fields, I had to study some sources, and I published and also translated some of them. Like 3 years back, I edited and published a text on the sword making, Ta'id-e Bisarat. Likewise, another work which is related to the precious stones. Recently, a work published by William Dalrymple on Kohinoor, and repeatedly he since also worked with Professor Yunus Jaffrey, who has been my founder teacher. He asked me to provide some material on this one, and prior to it I could give him more material. He had published it. Then I asked him, what is your source of the word Kohinoor? Because the works which I was studying for him, till early 18th century, there is not a single work in which I could find word Kohinoor for any precious stone. And then I saw his bibliography, and he also informed that the earliest work is from 1767, not prior to that. So this shows that even the naming of the stones continue in the different times. I will give the detail of the sources on precious stone in this presentation. How much time I have? I will try to complete, though it may take a little bit longer. I'm sorry I asked Madam Aziz Banu in which language I should speak, though observing the honorable scholars and guests, it would have been easier for me to speak in Urdu rather than in Persian anyway. Thanks to Manu, especially Dr. Aslam Parvez, Vice Chancellor of this esteemed university, because he himself has taken a long interest, not only after coming over here, for many years in the scientific literature in Urdu especially, and he is publishing a journal also in this subject for long. And our dear friend Dr. Shakil, fortunately we have a long association from Delhi University and prior to that. I'm also glad that Professor Abdul Wahid Saab, Padam Shri, is also present and works in the Unani medicine and Tibb Islami. I had read his some works also. I am indebted to Professor Aziz Banu to provide me an opportunity to present this paper. It is a fact we research scholars rarely do work on these things. First, let me specify the subjects on which we generally find the books in Indo-Persian sources. More sources are on Tibb, Darushinasi, Nujum, astronomical, Taqweem Shinasi, botany, physical sciences, occult sciences. In veterinary sciences, more on hippology or the Asp Shinasi as well as the field Shinasi. Few are on the birds, maybe like for the basically hunting and the prey one. Many Baznamas are there. Lesser on the Saidnama, even one Saidnama from early 16th century gives a complete preamble why hunting is permissible as per the Islamic Sharia, in fact. And then he explains why the king should go in those. The manuscript is in British Library. One may find even on taming of leopards as well as cheetahs. In 94, a book by Dr. S.N. Sen, who was then Vice President of Oberoi Hotels, has published Extinction of Cheetah. He is a renowned environmentalist. And for him, I had translated these two Saidnamas. One is particularly on the taming and making cheetah as an animal of prey, and complete detail about it was given. And presently, how many extincting number of cheetahs are in South Asia, he has given a complete data on this one. From ancient times, India's economy has been the agro-based economy. We know in science both. Nowadays, agriculture science is also becoming a developed science from the various sources. Thus, the agriculture science has been more formidable, though a lot of sources are available on revenue-based agriculture science. In other words, whatever the detail we get it due to the agroeconomy. It is often stated in Persian sources that India is a land having two rainy seasons resulting into two crop annual system, Rabi and Kharif, vast water bodies, natural and man-made, either rivers or canals or reservoirs, all are the great sources of fertility in agrarian system. Even treatise like Riyazul Awliya of Daulatabad explains how two big water bodies were created during Yadava dynasty in 11th century for water supply to adjacent sugar cane fields. Interestingly, this work of Azad Bilgrami provides ample detail on the various aspects of the water bodies and its usage in the agricultural lands. The work was edited and published by our late teacher, Professor Nisar Farooqi Sahab of the Arabic Department, Delhi University. As well as many other sources which are like Tuzuk Asafia or Mir Tajalli Shah, it also provides detail on these, though it's a work on the history basically. Indian millet or jow was amongst the first product from ancient times. It followed wheat and very late rice. There are various research works on history of these agro products in which I am not discussing here. It is interesting to mention that these crop and variety of the vegetables are described in the sources of revenue ones, as one can see in the history of agrarian system of Professor Irfan Habib, or his atlas provides detail on the different crop producing areas. But all these were for the purpose of collection of revenue, not on the quality or how to improve their crops. What were the scientific tools were employed in these areas. It is hoped that all best efforts will be made by the people to use these sources for getting their information. We do find certain archival records in which usually the words are mentioned that people should try to enhance the crop and the harvest so that the more and more revenue can be earned from that for the farming, or so that the more revenue is accrued and collected and the same is deposited in the Royal Exchequer to increase the products. There are instructions on systematic plowing, manuring, weeding, irrigation and crop protection from Afat-e-Ghaibi or Asib-Hai Tabi bekhasus as various kinds of bees or due to the military movements. When the crops or the harvest are lost, certain kind of the subsidies are also provided in the medieval period. There are various documents from the Jahangir and Shahjahan period and certain documents itself in the State Archives of Telangana which speaks about from the period of Dara Shikoh when he was a Subedar of that. Even couplet of this Hafiz, Shakkar Shikan Shavand Hame Tutiyane Hind, Ze in Kande Parsi ke be Bangale Meeravul. We usually enjoy this couplet only for the purpose that we in India are being lauded for our Persian poetry. But look at the two words from the agro science, Shakkar and Kand. Shakkar and Kand in Iran, Shakkar is a raw sugar to which we Indians call also Shakkar nowadays, the one with brown color, and Kand, Iran is a sugar cube of white color. It may be mentioned that even today, the last mentioned is exported to Iran from India, especially from Goa, Maharashtra and the adjacent area. And as I mentioned the work, this Riyazul Awliya, it gives a complete description of the black colored Ponda sugarcane, which is the best sugarcane fields of this area in Maharashtra. The crystallized sugar was introduced to Indians by Chinese in early 7th century, to which Indians converted into candied sugar, which is termed as Kand by Iranians, and Nabat, or the candies were made of the same. During the Sassanid period, candied sugar first time went from India to Iran, and it is not only the Kalela Damna went, but this one also. And this started its production, and it was given the name of Kande Parsi. But even today, They are not self-reliant on it, and India or from other South Asian countries, the sugar is imported to this country. Detail on how to increase the production, what kind of the manure or urea or fertilizer be used may also be found in Persian sources. Two works, one by Randhawa of Punjab Agriculture University on the basis of the Persian sources, he gives a complete detail, or an dictionary of agriculture terms of Yasin, edited by Professor Sayyid Hassan Mahmud on the basis of 18th century work. Dastur Malguzari of Khaja Yasin of Shah Alam period provides us the technical aspects how to make the best sugar of that. On agro-science, preservation of water in many parts of India, especially in the areas where water scarcity used to exist, the water technology in India is well described in Persian sources. After establishment of Persianate Islamic power in India, a diffusion of Indian and Iranian irrigation technology gave rise to an irrigation system which brought about economic growth and growth of material culture. Professor I. S. Siddiqui states, the relevant evidence available in Persian and Arabic works, though brief and laconic, sheds interesting light on the engineering skill that went into the construction of waterworks and the changes that irrigation technology underwent. From time to time, in particular, the setting up of the Persian wheel on wells and the construction of large artificial canals provide clues to the introduction of certain mechanical devices in the irrigation system employed in early medieval period. Amongst these sources, Tarikh-e-Firozshahi of Barani and Afif, both though ample light is on historical aspect but also on the technical aspect, speaks about the two new cities established by Firoz Shah Tughlaq, Jaunpur and Hisar Firoza, which is now known only as a Hisar, adjacent to Punjab and Haryana border. In the barren lands adjacent to Rajasthan desert was much difficult. Jaunpur, since being on the Ganges, it was not difficult for them. It may be true or not, but some sources like Agha Mehdi's book, The History of Tughlaq, provides evidence from certain Persian sources that Firoz Shah Tughlaq proposed marriage to a daughter of a faith holder near Sirsa during his hunting recessi, and the girl to whom he had saw in the fields got interested in getting married to him. He introduced himself as a trader and stayed in the house, and later on introduced himself as a king and wanted to marry. After much persuasion, the girl did agree to marry him, but put a condition that this is the area where there is scarcity of water, and he will bring certain canals of water from Satluj only, then she will marry. And Firoz Shah Tughlaq kept his words. And it is not only the detail which is provided by Agha Mehdi Khan. I am glad Salim Javed Malik is here. He has edited a work, Char Bahar, or Balkrishna Brahman, which is not even referred by Professor Irfan Habib. He has referred only two letters of Balkrishna Brahman from the British Library. The work is in National Museum, and he copied that work and established it. I hope one day he will publish it. The work provides the complete detail how these canals were brought from distant villages in the 6 canal system, and one went to even Hasi and the other to the Hisar area. Thus, the technological aspects in regard of water, a major source of agroeconomy, was on 3 areas: lakes, cisterns and tanks, second wells, and the third on the artificial canals. Unlike Kanat system of Central Asia, it may also be mentioned in Western India and some portion already underground water preservation system in the form of Baolis were in existence. We know that in the western part of India, especially from Rajasthan to Gujarat and even some in Delhi, Baolis were the main source of the water bodies in the time when there was no monsoon. And these have been even today preserved not only as for the tourist purpose, but some cases also. In regard of fresh vegetables and fruits, there we have sources which define about the variety of grapes, mango, melon, or even narcotics as referred as coconut, not opium, which is said to be brought by Portuguese and French later on, and it is the city of Mumbai, which is mentioned as a link center of trade for opium. For detail, recently Professor Amar Farooqui of History Department, Delhi, has published a book, Opium City, The Making of Early Victorian Bombay, published in 2016 by 3 essay collective publishers. Or coconut or dates or sugarcane or a variety of pulses and oil seeds. In literary works, sometimes we don't look from the scientific aptitude, otherwise there are a variety of references to the products including pulses. Even person like Jafar Zatali, whose works we try to read, mentions that Sikke Zad bar Motho Matar, means for which he was hanged by Farrukhsiyar. It is fact that in northern India, especially in western UP, there is abundant growth of both the peas, that is motor matar, and for abundance these are of a lesser value, to which Jafar Zatali. Very few works, especially about cotton and silk, we do get information on the areas, the best quality cotton producing areas like the adjacent area of Tapti River down to Surat for its black soil. Best quality cotton has been in this region or in adjacent countries like Dushanbe, which was once a major trade market for the cotton basically. The silk curtains in Mughal court were mainly from Chanderi till the time of Aurangzeb, who made it as stated in Muntakhul Albab. And Daulatabad's textile referred as Kattan or cotton of Devgir by Amir Khusro in his Nosfer in the context of the third sphere, which perhaps the first reference in this regard highlights the products of Deccan reaching to the central court. As I stated in the beginning, one of the major subjects in non-literary sources in education are Tib, Nujum and also music, though not a subject of science, but found a place in literary, especially poetry, to a great extent. Amongst welfare of the state and the empire, Tib, medical and health-related science got much preference in all the times. I know Wahid Sahib and Bari Sahib, whatever I will speak, it may not be of much importance. They are experts on this field. Amongst Persians from the Delhi Sultanate period, we do find work of both types in this realm. Works either translated from Arabic to Persian, though we know during the Sassanids, the task of translation of imported work was taken up. The first Pahlavi translation of Panchtantra into Damna was also for this purpose. A eternal life medicine, but is found that the best medicine is the characteristics of human beings. In the Abbasid period, though had started from Umayyad's time too, works of on this subject were translated from Greek during the time of Al-Mamun, who established Baitul Hikmah in 825 AD at Baghdad, and many works from the various other languages were translated into Arabic. Even the Indian medicine system, Charaka Padhati, was also introduced as mentioned by Ibn Nadim in his Fahrist. And later, Tabri also enlists the Indian medicinal system as Sushruta Ka Ashtang Hirdaya. There are either other sources too. Amongst Indian Persian sources, Tughlaq, the traditions of Indian medical system, in which many Arabic or the Islamic Tib medicine system is also, in fact, during Abbasid period, this science got most prominence. The science of medicine developed, preserved, systematized the medical knowledge and most advanced. In fact, present a medicinal system to the same. The word even physician even came from physish, same can be found in Shahnama of Firdausi. Ibn calls it the art of medicine. For last 2 weeks, I was having a stomach problem. Remember the preeminent of Ibn Khaldun, who said, stomach house of all the illness, and the ill digestion is also a major system of this all diseases. With the passage of time, Indian herbs were included into Tibbe Islami, as we seen from the works of Bhua in Madhun Shifa, and Abdul Fattah's Bustan Furuz, a work which is published by Munzavi in 1883. Interestingly, this work as a copy was given to me by Professor Mohakik when I visited this institute. In 1988, Professor late Hakim Abdul Hamid Saab, when Professor Mohakik and the others requested them to establish an institute of Tibet Hamadan, I remember Professor Abdul Wadud Azhar also accompanied him in that. And even an international conference on Abyssinia was organized in Hamadan University, and a decision was taken up. Even Hakim Sahab, Zillur Rahman Sahab also accompanied us at that conference, and a lot of discussion took place. But we know that in the last 3 centuries, either the Tibet Islami or the Arabic was denounced by European Hakims, and it was replaced with the others one, but still in subcontinent. And as we can see from the various folios of the manuscripts, either on the beginning or the end, majority of the Persian manuscripts have Nuskha-i-Tibbi added by the others, especially the readers who happened from this one. So much so that I was working on a historical work and reading some manuscripts in Bibliothèque Paris. I found a complete book as an scribe on the folios of the same Jafar Zatalli, in fact. And I couldn't find anything about it published by Rashid Khan Sahab or the other one, in fact, in that. Those sources like Tibbe Shifai Mahmud Shahi or some other sources from the early period are referred by scholars like Fabrizio Speziale, who stayed in Jami Hamdard during the lifetime of Hakim Abdul Hamid Sahib and worked a lot, or the work done by late our Osaf Sahib on this one. Or Riyazul Adwiya, also known as Riyazul Adwiya Humayuni, scribed in 976. It's one of the manuscripts is preserved in Khudabakhsh. Apart from men of arts, a number of Hakims also joined the court of Humayun. Jahangir was himself interested in this subject. In my recently edited text, Majmu al-Afkar, there is a complete detail on a medicinal lexicon compiled by Jahangir on the basis of information provided by Firangi physicians. It is mentioned that, as Jahangir said, that many Iranian physicians are not aware of these terms. It is very interesting that he is referring to the terms which he got from the physician of Europe who were at his court, and he compiled such a lexicon. I don't know where the manuscript will be, but in Majmu al-Afkar there is a complete description of this one. Many other sources we can find in the various libraries of Tib, not only on the Tib, but also scientific way of testing various types of the blood, urea, like this one, like work on Dalailul Bul. The work is in the form of the manuscript is in as well as library, and also mention its detail in the review also. Or Fawaidul Akhbar. It is interesting that a poetic treatise was presented to Babur when he first arrived near the city of this Hisar, before giving Hisar as a Jagir to Humayun. And the whole work was in Persian, but having the terms of the Sanskrit one. The manuscript is in Asiatic Society as referred by Ivanov. Or we know that the mathematics and music both are loved by many Hakims. And Hakim Arzani's work, apart from Tib, he has also work on Tashri'ul Mawsiki in this regard. Or the other works, like by Muzaffar bin Muhammad Shifai, the renowned Karabidan of Shifai. Also there are some other works by this writer, by the others also. In the court of, apart from this Muzaffar Hussain, as Asad Beg Qazvini refers in his Risala Asad Beg Qazvini about Hakim Ali, and he was the one who, even when Asad Beg brought first time tobacco to Akbari court and he presented it to Akbar, Hakim Ali reprimanded Akbar not to inhale tobacco. It is harmful. Asad Beg insisted, and he asked, when it is approved by the Firangi physician, why you are creating obstruction? Hakim Ali said, no, it is not permissible. Akbar took only one sip and said, it is only for Asad. It may be a kind of exaggeration by Asad Beg Qazvini, as he has brought it first time as referred by Irfan Saab also in this work. But before that, Naziri Nishapuri has a complete one eulogy on tobacco and its production and being brought by the Portuguese in the this southern area. So, but Asad Beg Qazvini has a high words about Hakim Ali Sahab and gives a number of references about his Tibbi Mualajat in this work, in fact. In the same manner, Shifa al-Alil, the work in Salarjung under the Pizishki or the medicinal section with the title with this one, or Muhammad Hashim bin Mahmud Hadi, who has a 18th century work. Again, Karabadan Alvi Khan is also, we know that in Bayan Waqe, two persons were taken away by Nadir Shah. One is Hakim Alvi and himself Abdul Karim, who in fact penned down this work. And Hakim Alvi was taken deliberately by Nadir Shah. He was from the family of the Shirazi school. And we know majority of the Hakims who arrived in the Mughal court were from Shiraz. And recently a website has come up on the genealogical detail of the all Shirazi Hakims who either came in Deccan, especially in Qutub Shahi period, and later on they moved to a central court, that's Agra, and also later on to Delhi. So there are many sources which not only give the detail about the Tibbi Islami, but also the kind of the sources they have utilized from the Indian medicinal system. In the technological aspects, one may find sources like on the meteorological aspects, like molding of iron for the use of arms, swords, guns, guards, that is sipar, or even the utensils and their ornamentation. Deccan, especially Golconda and Bidar, were the center of these technological aspects. In 2015, I had published this text of Taid Bisarat and also its translation. The cities which are mentioned in this work are mainly from Deccan, especially Golconda, Bijapur, Bidar, and Sirohi from Rajasthan and Nagaur. They mention how, from the technological aspects, various covers of the iron were prepared for sword as well as later for the cannon. It is interesting that Nagaur became a famous center for making the cannons. Recently I visited this city and found that majority of the old houses of the ironsmiths are now do the cooler making aspects because there is no need nowadays for the cannons of that time. These artisans or the ironsmiths had not acquired any degree as our students nowadays acquire, but they were the best engineers of their time. Ain Akbari provides a list of karkhana established within the fort or outside for getting many objects manufactured. In fact, like Isfahan's periphery, many cities were established around Agra for this purpose, like Firozabad for glass, where the different kind of technology was used for making various items of glass, including the bangles of everyday and special day use of the ladies. Kannauj for making itr or perfume. Perfumeric science, a branch of chemical industry, got much prominence in Deccan and Bengal, as in both the areas a variety of flowers and full of fragrance were available. A work entitled Bayaz Khushbui, its a single manuscript is available in British Library, has detail on the making of different kind of perfumes from various fragrant flowers. It has added detail also about the culinary sciences, as well as about the various ointments to be used for the tibbi purpose. Some detail in this work has been taken from Ain Akbari, but the writer has added certain from his own information also. Precious stones, dear to every king and nobles, and also to men and women of every class from ages unknown, has been also described in Persian sources prepared and compiled in India. Jawahir-e-Humayuni and Sana-e-Jawahir, these are two important sources on this subject. The manuscripts of these two are in Asiatic Society, Salarjung, British Library. These provide the complete detail about Yaqut, Marwarid, Lal, Zamarud, Afif, Firoza, etc. Minute detail on the place of their origin, their prices. It is not only the Ain Akbari which provides the detail of these two items, like he says in the Sana-e-Jawahir, Lal, Hazar Mohar, Paye Awwal, Paye Dovum from 500 to 1000, Paye Sevum, even it goes up to minimum 30 mohor. And we know that mohor was of the gold, not of the silver one. In the same way, he provides the detail how the almas should be cut to be used. In the same way, Yaqut, Surkh or Kabud. But he also mentions that which precious stones should be worn by various people according to the astronomical sciences. Ruby especially being brought by the Portuguese of the various sizes. The prices were as per the category, color, size or the inner characteristics of the stone. It also provides detail how to cut the diamonds for the different use. There are many other sources on other scientific discoveries regaled in Persian sources, but due to the paucity of time, I conclude here. Above are just the indicators for the young scholars to work in these fields too. They may seek help from other related disciplines, and this is a time for the interdisciplinary research to bring out a work of perfect detail. Once again, I thank all, especially Professor Aziz Bano, Professor Shahid Nokhez, and other friends who encouraged me to write these few information on the basis of the manuscript which I have come across in the various libraries. Thanks.
जनाब प्रोफेसर अब्दुल वहीद साहब साबिक डायरेक्टर से इल्तिमास करती हूँ कि वो अपने ज़रीन ख़यालात का इजहार करें और हैसियत से क्या अहमियत हो सकती है उस पर रोशनी डालें.
When we translate and publish, translate in the sense the transitional research, convert the treatise into the transitional research and publish in the Indian journal or the international journals in a language of English, better knowledge. But you know, the Persian as a source of knowledge, and not only in the subcontinent, in the world in general, was there before really the Arab people have come to India, and the Arabic has become an official language. In the statistics, once you see, the probably over 90 billion of people still speak, even beyond that, speak Persian, and enjoys the official language. Persian enjoys the official language of Iran, Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, and many other places. In fact, in many parts of the Indian and around the subcontinent. As all of us know that in the ancient times, Persian has been a center for scientific achievements and was often the conduct of knowledge from India and other surrounding countries like China and the East, Greece and Rome in the West. And Persian-speaking scholars have been active in furthering the knowledge in the field of science and technology such as astronomy, chemistry, anatomy, biology, botany, cosmology, mathematics, engineering and architecture. And you must have seen the monuments of the Persian architectures. Even Taj Mahal is one of them, which is one of the best monument which is built in India. When talk about the botany, there is a lot of contribution of the Persian scholars, which was written in Arabic as was translated into the Persian. Various treatises like Bolisina, Avicenna, the Canons of Medicine, the Qanun fi-Tib, and which was a textbook of medicine which was taught in the European medical colleges for a very long time. Even people still refer to it. The initial part of that, the canons of medicine contains the anatomy and physiology, and later part is the biology and general medicine and applied medicine, and still it forms the basis of anatomy and the concepts of the biology and the general medicine. For example, in the area of cosmetology and dermatology, the contributions of the Persian physician Avicenna in the canons of medicine, written in the full of volumes and repleant of references about the uses of the importance of the cosmetology. And they say the importance of a blemish-free skin to an individual's self-esteem and the maintenance of the satisfactory body image among the peers cannot be underestimated. Only the affected know the hurt occasioned by a disfiguring macule which may not threaten the survival but slowly and cruelly ruins their lives. So they were well aware of the role of cosmetology and dermatology in creating the psychological pressure over the patients of those days, and its impact on the social issues and the which is regarded as a social stigma even now. They have a full text of documentation over the cosmetology diseases like vitiligo. In fact, we are also doing research on vitiligo, a cosmetic disfigurement which is regarded as social stigma, and around 1% of the world and 4 to 5% of the Indian population is having. And the important point is with regard to the vitiligo, and as well they have mentioned about the role of psoriasis also as a cosmetic disfigurement. You know, this has a multifaceted effect. So Avicenna wrote that it has a disease burden of the population, affected population. It is not just a disease burden, it is a social stigma, it is a psychological depression which leads to the social isolation. And since it is being a social stigma, it has an economical burden too. Since being a chronic disease, patient has to have too frequent visits to the doctor, but in vain. So to overcome these challenges are being given in a very gross road that they say this is a very stubborn disease, which is a metabolic disease, a pigment metabolic defect because of the balgam. And they say you need to have a very deciding role in initiation of the treatment, like just a cosmetic application of some topical application of the drug to overcome this cosmetic problem or systemic drug will not helpful. You need to have the so-called, the word they have used is a munzij, and munzij a balgam of the adivya, a decoction of a concoction material for the to be given at least before real initiation of the medicine to control this metabolic derangement which causing the depigmentation to the skin. My dear friends, another treatise on the medicine, documented by Ibn Baitar, a classical book on which enlisted the herbal drugs, role of herbal drugs, its morphology, and the indications, and they were full aware of not only the indications, the adverse effect of the drug. They have used the word, use musle, as and when there is a toxic effect of the drug. Use the detoxification. They have mentioned the process of the method and the process of the detoxification of those particular drugs. And in addition to that, not only to use the musle, but in addition to that, in absence of the availability of the principal drug sometimes. So tabdil, abdal, adviya abdal, you need to have a secondary drug which are more resembles in terms of the efficacy of these drugs. They are fully aware of that. All of us know that the earliest universities and the libraries, the ancient Sassanid Persia was home for some universities and the libraries. The school of medicine, and where the so-called Islamic medicine was taught there, and these Chinese, Greek, atomic and Latin scientific texts were translated into the Persian language and Arabic, then Persian, and which has remained as the primary language used for the scientific writing in the Islamic world. Many scholars have also produced a range of scientific manuscripts and works in the Persian language. The Mughal court in India, which ranges from 1526 to 1858 AD, became a major center for the production of scientific works in Persian. As all of us know, as my predecessor was speaking about this era, the Mughal era, Persian was an official language there. And in fact, for as good as 100 years in down south, it was an official language which has enjoyed for over as good as 100 years. They say from as good as 1724 to 1824, that was an official language in the down south, and as good as 1 crore documents was written in the area of science, technology, hospital, building, management, welfare of the people, and day-to-day activity, and it was in a communication language, of official communication of language in the down south. During their Akbar's era, since it was the Persian language, then not only the Muslims, but the non-Muslims also learned, and there were non-Muslim scholars who have mastered the Arabic and the Persian those days and documented treatise and in the area of the science and technology. And as you know, Akbar was an empire, and there was a documentation of the scientific validation of the entire things which are really required to develop the empire, for the propagation of the empire, the Mughal empire. And in fact, there was a marvels of creation in oddities of existence. Over the centuries, many scholars and scientists of Persian origin have written in Arabic, and they preferred the language for religious and scientific subjects. The chronic marvels of the creation of oddities of existence, originally written in the 13th century, is a popular work of cosmography that has been translated into the various Islamic languages. This library holds the manuscripts in the original Arabic as well as Turkish and Persian translations. The 16th century Persian text contains several unique illustrations, including these depictions of mythical creations and on a gold leaf map that clearly demonstrate how the world was viewed in the medieval Islamic world. When we talk about the medicinal plants, there's a lot of contribution of the Persian scholars. When we talk of the Persian cradle of science and technology, it was is an era of the cradle of science and technology in ancient times. The Persian scientists contributed to the current understanding of nature, medicine, mathematics, philosophy, astronomy, few to mention. And these Persian made important contributions to algebra and the chemistry, invented the wind power machine and the first distillation of the alcohol, trying to revive the golden time of the Persian science. Iran scientists cautiously reached out to the world now, and many individual Iranian scientists, along with the Iranian Academy of Medical Sciences and Academy of Sciences of Iran, are involved in this revival these days. And my dear friends, it is very important to know that presently the Persian enjoys an official language in certain countries, including Iran. And since I don't have a personal experience of the medical education system in Iran, which is being taught in Persian language now. Any book which is published in a new edition of any book in any discipline across the world is immediately taken and translated into the Persian language, which has been taught to the students of medicine there. Not only the students of medicine, the students of philosophy and medicine, and the students of life sciences too. For example, Iran is a country that has made the considerable advances through education and training, despite the international sanctions for over many years. The last 30 years, Iran university population swelled from 100,000 in 1970 to 2 million in 2006. 70% of his science and engineering students are women, and everywhere it's dominating. They are into the main domain of life for the development of the country and the propagation of the knowledge. When we talk about the agriculture science, see, there are two issues. One is a drip irrigation, which is probably the inherent this technology from the Israel. But the agriculture techniques and harvesting techniques of the Iran and the Persian countries are still mastering. You know, Iran is a larger producer of pista, even now the second largest in the world, olive fruits, olive oil. Usta Khuddus is a drug which is used, as my professor earlier to me was speaking about the stomach is a site of diseases. Avicenna in his classical text has mentioned about, since he was a Persian physician, written in Arabic language, was translated later into the Persian language. He has written clearly the role of Usta Khuddus as a damagh ki jharu, is take care of all the diseases. And just believe, the lot of research has been done on Usta Khuddus now. Is a very wonderful drug for neurological disorders and or cognitive disorders. Cognitive disorders are nothing but the disorders which are related with the degeneration of the brain tissue, neurological disorder. And at the same time, is very good drug to evacuate the, stimulate the bowel movements to evacuate the constipation. So wonderful drug. As he has mentioned, they were aware that the stomach is the site of the diseases. We need to take care of proper clearing of the stimulating the bowel movements or regulate the bowel movements. So in a single formulation, that was the art and beauty of this formulation of those physicians and the galaxy of the formulations which they have developed. That the philosophic approach that as and when we target certain diseases, like modern medicine we have a targeted drug delivery system now. And those days, the concept of the personalized medicine, how the entire Western world is working towards the developing the personalized medicine. So their approach of developing certain formulations, for example, I was just giving for neurological disorders, for cardiovascular disorders, for hepatic disorders, always they have an element to increase the bowel movement. They always feel, since the stomach is ummul amraz, constipation को ये लोग बोलते हैं कि ummul amraz है, तो ये बोलते हैं कि इसको पहले we need to evacuate that. That is more important. So as and when they give, and metabolic diseases, you know the penetration of that. And another beauty I will tell you, very when we go through in a very detailed manner, the Avicenna's approach towards the pigmented disorders. They have a concept of retentive force, they have a concept of transformative force, they have concept of expulsive force, and the new knowledge and new technology has endorsed this, their concepts that these are very truly works. When you talk about the medicine, the practice and the study of medicine in Persian has a long and prolific history, situated at the crossroads of the East and West. Persia was often involved in development in ancient Greeks and Indian medicine. Pre- and post-Islamic Iran has been involved in medicine as well. For example, the first teaching hospital where medical students methodically practiced on patients under the supervision of physicians of the Academy of Gundaspur in the Persian Empire. One important thing I wanted to mention. There was a time, those days, there was a great physicians. It has Persian soil has produced many top brains in the medical field. Ar-Razi, Abu Ali Sina. There are many more. There was a time somebody asked, the empire of those days asked to set up a hospital, and for that he was he was assigned to the location of that site for the development of the hospital. There was no concept of the those days the infection, antibiotics, antibiotic resistance, rational use of antibiotics, which we don't have because of that drug resistance, and many more conditions have developed now. So the task was how he was, translate into the practical thing. I'll just tell you in a fraction of a minute that he has taken a big pieces of mutton, cut it into pieces, and hanged in different places across an area which is embarcated for to have that place to be located for building up a hospital. After a couple of days, he has visited again and said, wherever there was a putrefaction into that pieces of the mutton was not taken as a site because they are prone to develop some infectious diseases. And when mutton was not putrefied, that site was indicated for the construction of the hospital. See, the point is, that was that it is not they have just used their brain and on, but that was the technology, that was the application they used. See, this is a time of the science and technology, but science of technology, application and penetration of the science and technology in our day-to-day life and day-to-day activity and in our profession is the most important, and translate this and prove these theories and propagate these theories and convince the modern medicine that these theories has still valid and forms the basis of the medicine and allied subjects. Some experts go as far as to claim that to a very large extent the credit of the whole hospital system was given to the Persian. The first hospital was set up there. The idea of xenotransplantation dates today by the Achamendes dynasty, as evidenced by the engravings of the many mythologic chimeras still present in the Persepolis. Several documents still exist from which the definition and the instruments of the headache in the medieval Persian to be ascertained. See, is a modern word. We are acquiring many diseases nowadays. The latest emerging type of disease which is called is a lifestyle disorder now. The many lifestyle disorders, could it be an obesity, could it be insomnia, could it be a headache, could it be cardiovascular disease, diabetes, these are all lifestyle diseases. And it is not only the lifestyle disease, but the complications related with the lifestyle diseases are increasing in life. As Anifisana in his book, the most popular people, the physicians from this Persian soil, has documented and demonstrated the various types of the headache those days, which was related because of the matter, influenced because of the humus, which is just not related because of the humus. There is no really constituent involved in that, but it has a high day-to-day activity. Even now, the people are at large, the majority of population, elderly population, even to some extent the younger population are suffering with the headache and the insomnia, the loss of sleep and the headache. The emerging type of headache, when you just talk to the neurologist, they'll have an CT scan done and MRI done. Then after that also they are not able to do it, but everything remains to be same, and the structural changes into the brain remains to be the same. Though there is no neurological damage in spite of the repeated CTs done. They say that there is an emerging type of the headache which is called as a tension headache. It is not because the tension headache doesn't reflect that it is because of the tension which they acquired because of the day-to-day activity. But it is a very specific name is given as a tension headache which the modern medicine doesn't have the definition of this tension, really what kind of a tension is causing the headache. If it is not external, there should be some internal element involved. But those days when they are defining, they have a full book written on the headache. When I was a student of the Unani medicine, was just passed out, I was a critical study of that entire book, that it implicates as good as Professor Bari Saab is there, I may be wrong, they have, he can correct me, as good as 18 types of headache. मैं एक छोटी सी बात आपको बताना चाहता हूँ. एक हेडेक उसमें ये किस्म की बताई गई है कि ये कुछ तो उज़वी होती है, कोई बैरूनी होती है, कोई इश्तराकी होती है. जब कहते हैं कि आपको कॉन्स्टिपेशन होता है तो you'll always have a headache. अब फुलनेस ऑफ द होता है, इंडेशन होता है, you'll always relate with it. These are all theories are well proved and documented in the new technology era, and this is convinced with the physicians of the modern medicine. With these few words, probably I'll not hold you in the area of anatomy. As I told you, they have done wonderful, and as my friend has told that the role of Persian literature and culture and Deccan has been already dealt by predecessor. As you know, as I told you, then Deccan, there was monument wing on the Persian architecture, and those days it has enjoyed as the official language and the language of communication, language of propagation among the masses. And the concept of these physicians is not only the culture or the literature which has implicated, but you know the concept and the culture of creating the teaching institutions, the needing the public's basic needs, creating the hospitals, creating the roads, and these are all this to the development of the as such the city and the entire fulfilling the necessity of a common man was translated and designed by these ancient Persian physicians even in the Deccan. With these few words, before taking this leave from this, I am very thankful to the organizers, the Professor Chancellor and Professor Aziz Banu, the head department of the Persian, for being invited me to come before you and have an interactive session. And probably I look forward to have a longer association since our Vice Chancellor over here. There was a long back, we used to have a meeting with the Vice Chancellor, sir. So starting of a Unani Medical College over here, could it be a UG college as a PG college? Sir, since I work for Ministry of Ayush, Government of India, I'm Chairman Scientific Advisory Committee, I'm Chairman for COPIA Committee there. And in fact, another word I wanted to share with my researchers over here, I'm member of, in the Ministry of Ayush, we have an EMR committee. I'm a member of EMR committee. The EMR committee, government gives funding to the extent, they have a ceiling now, they give to the extent of 70 lakhs. It goes in form of fellowship for 3 years, minimum 3 years, that is a maximum 3 years, and for infrastructure creation into your labs also. So I request all the research scholars make use of that. And in fact, the Ayush government has started propagating this, creating awareness. First of a kind of this propagation meeting we had in Kolkata last week. We have spoken and what are the merits and demerits of this scheme and how best people can take use of this scheme. So make up use of that. And sir, the government of India, the Minister of Ayush is always on the, since this the new state of Telangana has come up, in the proportion of our population, probably there is a scope of a college. So we can always have that. So as and when anything needed on behalf of the
आग़ाए मोहतरम चंद अल्फाज बेशुमार जी जी खिताब की दरख्वास्त की जाती है आग़ाए निसार हुसैन साहब।
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। शहनशीन पर तशरीफ़ फरमा कराम, अहम मौका है कि ऐसे सेमिनार्स, ऐसे इजलास में कर कर सकाफ़ती और इस्लामी जो सा है उसको याद किया जाए। और आज के ज़माने में कितना अहम ये विरसा हो सकता है उसको आज के नौजवान को बताया जाए। ज़बान जब मुंतकिल होती है एक मुल्क से दूसरे मुल्क में तो अपने साथ अपने कल्चर को लेकर आती है, अपने साथ अपने वो अदीबों को, लिखने वालों को जो अपनी ज़बान में उरूज रखते हैं उसको लेकर आते हैं। लेकिन जब भी फ़ारसी ज़बान का जिक्र होता है तो हमने यही देखा कि अदब पर, शेर शायरी पर गुफ्तगू होती है। लेकिन आज यहाँ पर जिस मौजू पर तो तफक्कुर और तयख्खुल किया जा रहा है वो यही है कि किस तरह से अदब से हटकर दूसरे जो बाब है उसमें फ़ारसी का क्या रोल है, और दक्कन में खुसूसन तो आप अगर कुछ के औराक को उल्टेंगे तो पता चलेगा कि 400 साल पहले आप ये लोग जब ईरान से आए थे तो ना सिर्फ अपनी ज़बान, ना सिर्फ अपना कल्चर, बल्कि उस ज़माने में जैसे आज मल्टीटास्किंग होती है, एक आलिम जो हुआ करता था वो सिर्फ एक आलिम नहीं होता, वो इंजीनियर भी होता, आर्किटेक्ट भी होता, मेडिकल साइंस की कोई एक अलग शाख नहीं थी, बल्कि वही डॉक्टर भी रहता, वही इंजीनियर भी रहता। मिसाल दे दूं कि मीर मोहम्मद इस्तराबादी जो आए हैदराबाद को, वो एक आलिम दीन थे, उसके साथ साथ वो एक इंजीनियर भी थे, फलसफी भी थे और बहुत बड़े अदीब भी थे। शेर भी कहा उन्होंने और हैदराबाद के नक्शा जो आज पुराना शहर है उसमें उनका बहुत बड़ा रोल रहा है। और आप देखें कि इस तरह से आपको बहुत ज्यादा मिलेंगे, उल्लू मिलेंगे। तो जब ये जबान आई है वहां से, शीरी जबान है, शीरी सुखन है, तो आज देखें कि जैसे कि नौरोज का जिक्र किया गया है। नौरोज ये जो कल्चर है हिंदुस्तान में कहां से आया? ये नौरोज किसी एक मुल्क या किसी एक फिरके के लिए नौरोज नहीं है। वो लोग के जो एस्ट्रोलॉजी, कॉस्मोलॉजी, वो लोग के जो फलकियात से वाकिफ हैं वो जान सकते हैं कि नौरोज उस पॉइंट को कहते हैं कि जहां से इब्तिदा होती है कि एक साल मुकम्मल होकर एक सेकंड जब आगे बढ़ता है, ये जो चांद और सूरज के दरमियान जो मिदार पर ऑर्बिट मारी एक सेकंड जब आगे बढ़ा जाता है तो उसे नौरोज कहते हैं फारसी जबान में, कि रोज की इब्तिदा हो रही है और वहां से मौसम तब्दील होता है। तो उसको उन्होंने खुशियों में तब्दील कर दिया, काश्तकारी वहां पर तब्दील होती है। लोग बहुत ज्यादा, इसे सबसे बड़ा आप कह सकते हैं कि 15 रोज तक आपको ईरान बंद नजर आएगा, हर शोबा बंद होता है, हर लोग अपने घरों में मौजूद नहीं होते, दूसरे मुकामात पर चले जाते हैं। उसी तरह से लोगों ने ये कह दिया कि ये पारसी कल्चर है हिंदुस्तान में, लेकिन ये पारसी या किसी एक कबीले या एक फिक्र या एक मंतके कर रहने वालों के लिए नहीं है। ये वहां से ये पॉइंट उन्होंने बताया। अब आप देखें कि ईरानियों ने जो तिब में काम किया, जो मेडिसिन में काम किया, और वो जबान यहां पर भी मौजूद है। आप अगर गोलकुंडा में चले जाएं तो वहां पर देखेंगे कि फारसी में लिखा हुआ है। और वो हजरात की जो हैदराबाद की दक्कन की हिस्ट्री से वाकिफ है वो जानते हैं, निजाम के दौर में द लैंग्वेज ऑफ कोटियाड वॉज पर्शियन लैंग्वेज, और उसमें बेहतरीन उलमा को दावत दी जाती थी। आलिम से मुराद सिर्फ मजहबी तालीम रखने वाला नहीं था। इंजीनियरिंग, आज आर्किटेक्ट बहुत बड़े हुआ करते थे, जो रोडों को उन्होंने, आज आप अगर ओल्ड सिटी आ जाएं सुबह के वक्त 5 और 6 बजे के वक्त, तो आप देखेंगे कि इस तरह से रोडों को डिजाइन किया गया है कि उसे स्वीप करने की जरूरत नहीं होती, कि हवाएं जो चलती हैं वो हवाएं ऐसे रुख से रोड को बनाया गया था कि वो खुद ब खुद जो जो कचरा वहां पर होता है उसे साफ कर दिया जाए। और आप देखें कि हाल ही में आयतुल्लाह ज़मानी ईरान से आए थे, उनकी गुफ्तगू हो रही थी डेक्कन मेडिकल कॉलेज के प्रोफेसर से, तो वहां पर मैं भी मौजूद था। तो यहां पर कहा गया, और वहां पर असदुद्दीन ओवैसी साहब भी थे, उन्होंने कहा कि हमारे पास स्टेम सेल रिसर्च बहुत तेजी से आगे बढ़ रही है और हमारे पास लिवर पर काम हो रहा है। तो आयतुल्लाह ज़मानी ने कहा कि ईरान 7वें मुकाम पर है दुनिया के स्टेम सेल रिसर्च पर, और हम चाहते हैं कि मुकम्मल हम अपना एजुकेशन नो हाउ आपको दे सकते हैं। तो आप देखें कि आज तक वो जो पेश छोड़ा गया था इतने साल बाद फिर वहीं पर आकर मुलाकात कर रहा है। तिब हो, एजुकेशन हो, इंजीनियरिंग हो, साइंस हो, टेक्नोलॉजी हो, वो फारसी पर काफी इसका दबदबा रहा है। और उसके बाद हर चीज में स्पेशलाइजेशन होने के बाद लोगों ने अलग अलग इंसानों को, अलग अलग फिक्रों को जुदा कर दिया कि ये आलिम है, ये आर्किटेक्ट है, ये तबीब है, ये इंजीनियर है। लेकिन वो शीरी जबान फारसी की आज भी यहां पर इस यूनिवर्सिटी में कायम है, इसको जिंदा रखा गया है। और मैं प्रोफेसर अजीज बानो साहिबा से करीब 20 साल से वाकिफ हूं, और मैं ये बताना चाहता हूं कि मैंने ज़बान फारसी जो शुरू की है, जो सीखा है, आप ही से सीखा है। आप मेरी पहली उस्ताद हैं, और एक फख्र की बात है कि आपने जब मुझसे कहा तो मैंने कहा कि हर काम को छोड़कर मेरा आना यहाँ पर फरीजा है। तो ये यूनिवर्सिटी के पास एक ऐसी मेहनती और ऐसी प्रोफेसर है यहाँ पर जिनके बारे में मैं कह सकता हूँ कि वो हकीकत में हैदराबाद में जो पर्शियन लैंग्वेज को जिंदा रखी हैं, आपने बहुत बड़ी कोशिश और काविश की है। आपने बहुत मेहनत की है। ऐसे इंस्टीट्यूशन में आप थी जहां पर स्टूडेंट्स नहीं आया करते थे, तो आप तरगीब देकर किस तरह से उनको लेकर आई हैं और उनमें शौक पैदा किया है कि आए और आप पर्शियन लैंग्वेज को सीखें। क्योंकि लोग पूछते थे कि अगर हम सीखे तो इससे हमें क्या फायदा होगा। आजकल दुनिया सिर्फ फायदे को सोचती है कि मैं जर्मन सीखूं तो मुझे फायदा होगा, इंग्लिश इसलिए सीखूं कि मुझे नौकरी मिल जाएगी, मैं फ्रेंच इसलिए सीखूं कि अगर मैं चला जाऊं तो वहां पर मुझे ये मिलने वाला है, ये दौलत मिलेगी, पैसा मिलेगा। लेकिन आपने बेलौस खिदमत की है इस जबान की, याद रखिए। और आज हमारे खुद हिंदुस्तान में, मुल्क में, कि उर्दू जो खत्म हुआ चाहती है, आज हर लोग वो कि जो मैंने बड़े बड़े लोगों को देखा है कि जो उर्दू में तकारीर करते हैं लेकिन रोमन इंग्लिश में उसे लिखकर, तो आज उर्दू जबान खत्म हो रही है। और जो उर्दू जबान खत्म हो रही है उसकी पेरेंट जो लैंग्वेज है अरबिक और पर्शियन, उसको बाकी रखा है। तो पर्शियन और अरबिक बाकी रहेगी तो उर्दू जबान खुद ब खुद बाकी रहेगी। क्योंकि आप देखें जो अल्फाज उर्दू जबान में आए हैं, बहुत ज्यादा अल्फाज फारसी जबान से लिए गए हैं और उससे ज्यादा अरबी जबान से लिए गए हैं। जब फारसी और अरबी और उर्दू को बचाया जाएगा, इसको रखा जाएगा, तो फिर इस्लाम के वो राज और रमूज, वो किताबें जो छपी हैं, वो जो किताबें जो आज डिजिटलाइज हो गई है, एक एक, अब अंदाजा कीजिए कि मैं जब ईरान पहुंचा तो वहां पर देखकर मुतहयर हो गया कि उन्होंने हर किताब को डिजिटलाइज कर दिया है। एक एक लाख किताबें आपको मिल जाएंगी एक मुकाम पर। तो आज लाइब्रेरीज में जाने की जरूरत नहीं है। आज हम यहीं पर शहर हैदराबाद में बैठकर, ये यूनिवर्सिटी में बैठकर वो किताबों को हम देख सकते हैं कि जिसका तसव्वुर भी नहीं किया जा सकता। जो मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट्स है उसको एक जगह जमा कर दिया गया है, वो जो किताबें हैं उसको एक जगह जमा कर दिया गया। अगर फारसी जबान से वाकिफियत होगी, उसका सही ट्रांसलेशन होगा, तो उर्दू जबान भी बाकी रहेगी, एक कल्चर बाकी रहने वाला है, एक सकाफत बाकी रहने वाली है, और जो अदबी काम हुआ है, जो दूसरे काम हुए हैं, उसको भी हम जिंदा रख सकते हैं। और ऐसे सेमिनार्स का इनेकाद अमल में लाना, ये मुबारकबादी के काबिल हैं अजीज मैम और यूनिवर्सिटी के वाइस चांसलर साहब। आप अपनी तवज्जो देते हैं ऐसे मौज़ूआत पर, इसको आगे बढ़ाते हैं। तो जहां तक हमारी जरूरत पड़ेगी हम इंशाअल्लाह जरूर आगे आएंगे। और खुद यहां पर हिंदुस्तान में सफीर ईरान ये कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि बहुत ज्यादा हम इस लैंग्वेज को फरोग दे सके, आगे बढ़ा सके। कहीं पर भी अगर जरूरत पड़ेगी तो हकीर आप तमाम के साथ नजर आएगा। क्योंकि अगर हम एक पर्शियन जबान को जिंदा रखेंगे, इसका मतलब यह है कि हम एक कल्चर को जिंदा रख रहे हैं, और हम वो अदब, वो किताबें जो इस वक्त भूली जा चुकी है उसको भी जिंदा रखेंगे। और वक्त आएगा कि इसका सही ट्रांसलेशन जब होगा और आवाम तक ये इल्म पहुंचेगा, तो इंशाअल्लाह वो भी जानेंगे, वो भी पहचानेंगे कि एक जो यूनिवर्सिटी का काम होता है, जो इंसानियों की तरबियत का काम होता है, इंसान की इंसान साजी होती है, एक कैरेक्टर को जो मुरत्तब किया जाता है, वो यही यूनिवर्सिटीज में काम होता है। और इनकलाब भी जितने दुनिया में आए हैं वही यूनिवर्सिटी से ही शुरू होते हैं। क्योंकि नौजवान जो इनकलाबी होते हैं उनमें जज्बा होता है, उनमें इल्म होता है, वो जहल नहीं रखते, इल्म के साथ वो इनकलाब रखते हुए वो जब आकर बदल देते हैं। अंदाजा कीजिए कि एक जबान में, एक नौजवान में एक ऐसी ये पाक जगह है यूनिवर्सिटी, इसमें इतनी ताकत है कि यहां पर अल्लाह भी देखता है, ऊपर वो ताकतें वो निगाह करती है कि कौन सा मुकाम है जहां पर इल्म हासिल किया जा रहा है, और जहां पर इंसानों के कैरेक्टर साजी हो रही है, इंसान साजी हो रही है, तो उसकी निगाह करम भी होती है और इनकलाब भी आता है। और वो लोग के जो घरों में सो रहे हैं उन्हें सोचने पर मजबूर किया जाता है कि आप सोते रहें, लेकिन हम अपना इनकलाबी काम करते रहेंगे, हक पर, सीधे रास्ते पर लाते रहेंगे। कहीं पर भी अगर कोई मुश्किल आएगी तो यही स्टूडेंट्स है जो बड़ा एजुटेशन करते हैं। तो ये कहां से होता है? ये कल्चर से, एक जबान से, एक उस्ताद के जरिए जाने अदब तय कर एक यूनिवर्सिटी में वहां पर उनके जहनों को, उनकी अक्लों को, उनकी फिक्रों को मुरत्तब किया जाता है, सीधे रास्ते पर लाया जाता है। तो ये हम पाक जगह पर है जहां पर हम तमाम आने वाली नस्लों के जहनों को मुरत्तब कर रहे हैं, उनको सीधे रास्ते पर लेकर आ रहे हैं। इससे बढ़कर कोई और बात नहीं हो सकती। और मेरी निगाह में एक बहुत बड़ी इबादत बरकत है जो हम यहाँ पर काम कर कर नौजवान नस्ल को सीधे रास्ते पर ला रहे हैं। वाखिर दावाना अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह रब्बिल आलमीन।
मेरे मुतालिक अपने जो जज्बात का इजहार है उसमें आप लोग 90% कम कर लें, क्योंकि मेरा मनसब ही यही है, काम ही यही है, मैं करना हूँ। अगर मैं फारसी से मंसूब हूँ तो फिर मेरा काम ये अगर ना करूँ तो फिर मेरी रोजी ना हलाल, ना मेरी ज़िंदगी कामयाब। तो बस दुआएं खैर करें कि अल्लाह मेरी कोशिशों को कामयाब करें और मेरे मुखलिसीन आपकी तरह ये जो इस हाल में सब हैं, इसी तरह के मुखलिसीन अल्लाह मियाँ हमारे लिए देते रहें साथ और काम आगे बढ़ते रहें। मैं बड़े इल्तिमास, बड़े एहतराम के साथ सदर जलसा जनाब डॉक्टर शकील अहमद साहब, प्रो वाइस चांसलर मौलाना आज़ाद नेशनल उर्दू यूनिवर्सिटी से दरख्वास्त करती हूँ कि अपने सदारती कलमात से हमें नवाजें।
अस्सलाम वालेकुम। मैं आप सबको एक तो खुश आमदीद करता हूँ कि आप आए और इसके अंदर आपने हिस्सा लिया जो आज का इनॉग्रल फंक्शन है। कुछ चीज़ें बाय वर्च्यू ऑफ योर पोजीशन आपको करनी पड़ती हैं। जैसे मैं सदारत कर रहा हूँ, हालांकि ये सब्जेक्ट पर्शियन है, लेकिन पोजीशन की वजह से ये फरीज़ा अंजाम देना पड़ रहा है तो कर रहे हैं। पर्शियन से जो मेरा नाता रहा है, मैं जब 21 इयर्स का था तो मैं दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी में एक वाइस चांसलर थे, प्रोफेसर मुनीस रजा साहब, उनके साथ था। उनके बहनोई साहब प्रोफेसर आबिदी वो अक्सर आया करते थे और हमारे साथ बैठ के चाय पीते थे और हम इसके ऊपर गुफ्तगू करते थे। हमारी समझ में नहीं आता था ज़्यादा, लेकिन जो मैं बताना चाह रहा हूँ, उसी दौरान में प्रोफेसर चंद्रशेखर साहब बड़े जुझारू रिसर्च स्कॉलर थे, लीडर भी थे और सब्जेक्ट पे उस टाइम पे कमांड थी और हमारे साथ अक्सर बात हुआ करती थी। तो ये हमारा नाता पर्शियन से रहा। ये कहा जाता है ना कि आप हींग ना बेचें, लेकिन अगर हींग बेचने वाले के साथ ही अगर रहें तो आपके अंदर भी खुशबू आने लगती है। तो पर्शियन की इम्पोर्टेंस को जाना जा सकता है और मुझे थोड़ा आइडिया है। सबसे पहले तो जैसा हमारे डाइस पे जो लोग बैठे हैं उनका जो तकर्रुर किया, उनको जो बुलाया गया है, तीनों जो लोग हैं, एक तो की स्पीकर, नोट स्पीकर हैं हमारे चंद्रशेखर साहब, गेस्ट ऑफ ऑनर हैं, ये बहुत अच्छा चयन किया है, बहुत अच्छा तकर्रुर किया है। प्रोफेसर अजीज बानो रियली मुबारकबाद की हकदार हैं। जिस तरीके से उन्होंने सब्जेक्ट पे, डिफरेंट एस्पेक्ट पे, डिफरेंट डायमेंशन पर्शियन का जो टॉपिक है, जैसा हमारे चंद्रशेखर साहब ने कहा और स्पीकर्स ने भी कहा, जो टॉपिक है ना पर्शियन के अंदर, जनरली ये अनअटेंडेड टॉपिक है। जनरली हम जब बात करते हैं तो कल्चर और लिटरेचर से रिलेटेड टॉपिक्स की बात करते हैं, लेकिन इस तरह का टॉपिक जिसको ज़्यादा तवज्जो नहीं दी गई और प्रोफेसर अजीज बानो मैडम ने और उनके साथियों ने डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ पर्शियन के उस टॉपिक को चुना और उस पर ये 3 रोज़ा इंटरनेशनल सेमिनार का आगाज़ किया। आज फर्स्ट डे है। डेफिनेटली जो थर्ड डे रहेगा उसमें जो नताइज आएंगे बहुत अच्छे आएंगे और ये पर्शियन की फील्ड के लिए, स्कॉलर्स के लिए बहुत मुफीद साबित होंगे। पर्शियन का जो ट्रांसलेशन की बात है, पर्शियन में बहुत काम हो चुका है। जो ट्रांसलेशन की बात है, जब मुझे भी कहा गया कि भाई आपको भी आना है और मुझे लगा थोड़ा बहुत कुछ बोलना पड़ेगा, तो अगर जो मुगल एम्परर अकबर हैं उनके पीरियड में बड़ा काम हुआ ट्रांसलेशन का। उन्होंने जो संस्कृत की क्लासिक हैं, नॉट ओनली उसका ट्रांसलेशन करवाया बल्कि साइंटिफिक ट्रीटीज, और उसके अंदर एक मैथमेटिक्स की बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट थी, लीलावती और भास्कर चार्य। ये बहुत बड़ा कंट्रीब्यूशन था अकबर का। उसके बाद जो शुरुआत हुई, जो रूलर्स हैं दक्कनी, क्योंकि विद स्पेशल रेफरेंस कहा गया है ना इस टॉपिक के अंदर कि रेफरेंस टू दक्कन पर्शियन लिटरेचर, तो हमारे जो रूलर्स हैं दक्कन किंगडम के, उनका भी बहुत बड़ा कंट्रीब्यूशन रहा है। और एक जो बहुत अच्छा काम था वो सालेहुतरा और दुर्गा दास, ए वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग संस्कृत वर्क ऑन हॉर्सेस, देयर काइंड डिसीज ट्रीटमेंट, जिसका ट्रांसलेशन हुआ। जो निजाम्स ऑफ हैदराबाद हैं उनके पीरियड में जो बहुत अच्छा ट्रांसलेशन का पर्शियन का काम हुआ, जिसपे काफी वाहिद साहब ने ये यूनानी मेडिसिन, लेकिन उसके बावजूद भी उतना साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी से रिलेटेड काम नहीं हो पाया है जिस तादाद में लिटरेचर और हिस्ट्री पे काम हुआ है। तो ये बहुत जरूरत थी, नीड ऑफ द आवर थी। हमारे जो तीनों कीनोट स्पीकर हैं, चंद्रशेखर साहब और 2 गेस्ट ऑफ ऑनर हैं, तीनों ने सब्जेक्ट की इम्पोर्टेंस को, थीम की इम्पोर्टेंस को बहुत अच्छी तरीके से बताया, समझाया। मैं उनका बहुत तहे दिल से शुक्रगुजार हूं कि आए हमारे मानू यूनिवर्सिटी के अंदर और हमें नवाजा। इसके अलावा मैं ये कहना चाहूँगा कि जैसा हमारे जो गेस्ट ऑफ ऑनर हैं आगा निसार हुसैन साहब ने कहा कि इस टाइप की एक्टिविटीज़ का होना यूनिवर्सिटी में लगातार बहुत ज़रूरी है और हम उस डायरेक्शन में बहुत कुछ कर रहे हैं, कुछ ना कुछ होता रहता है, ये भी उसकी एक कड़ी है। मुझे लगता है कि ये जब वैलिडिटी सेशन के टाइम पे कुछ ना कुछ इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज़ें निकल के आएंगी और एक ऐसी चीज़, एक ऐसी शेप लेगी जिससे हमारे रिसर्च स्कॉलर्स और जो लोग पर्शियन की फील्ड में काम कर रहे हैं उनके लिए बहुत फ़ायदेमंद साबित होगी। मेरी नेक ख्वाहिशात हैं कि ये बहुत अच्छा आपका 3 दिन का सेमिनार हो और इसके नताइज बहुत अच्छे निकलें। और मैं यही कहूँगा कि जब भी कोई चीज़ हटके होती है, जैसे ये थीम आपने हटके चुना है, इसके रिज़ल्ट बहुत अच्छे आते हैं। मेरी नेक ख्वाहिशात हैं कि आप इसमें पूरी तरीके से कामयाब हों। फिर मैं एक बार आप सबका शुक्रिया अदा करता हूं कि आप लोग आए और अपना टाइम दिया। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
वैसे तो हर स्कॉलर और हाजरीन में डायस पे और ऑफ द डायस सबका मैं शुक्रिया अदा कर रही हूँ, लेकिन फॉर्मली यानी बाकायदा तौर पे तशक्कुर के लिए, वोट ऑफ थैंक्स के लिए मैं प्रोफेसर शाहिद नौखेज़ आज़मी साहब से दरख्वास्त करती हूँ कि इज़हार तशक्कुर अदा करें।
मोहतरम हाज़रीन, अस्सलाम वालेकुम। ये 3 रोज़ा सेमिनार जो प्रोफेसर अजीज़ बानो की मेहनत और मशक्क़त से जिसका इनेकाद हुआ है, जिसकी क़यादत और सदारत PVC साहब डॉक्टर शकील अहमद साहब ने फरमाई है। ये इस मौजू के एतबार से अगर कहा जाए तो ये साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी का एक ऐसा मौजू था जिसका ताल्लुक़ आम तौर से लोग फ़ारसी से नहीं समझते। ये था कि ये अलग मौजू है और फ़ारसी अलग मौजू है, लेकिन मैडम ने जिस तरह से इसे कदीम मखतूतों से और ख़ासकर संस्कृत के जो मखतूते थे बाद में जो फ़ारसी में तराजिम हुए, उसके बाद जिस तरह से जदीद उलूम से यह आरास्ता हुआ, इस तरह मैडम ने इस मौजू का इंतखाब किया। तो सबसे पहले मैं इस इंतखाब के लिए प्रोफेसर अजीज़ बानो साहिबा का शुक्रिया अदा करता हूँ और उन्हें मुबारकबाद देता हूँ। तो उन्होंने एक ऐसा मौजू इंतखाब किया जो सारे लोगों के लिए, पूरी यूनिवर्सिटी के लिए है, पूरी कौम के लिए है, पूरी मिल्लत के लिए, पूरी दुनिया के लिए है, जिसका इलाका महदूद नहीं है बल्कि इंतहाई वसी है। और इस मौजू के इंतखाब के बाद उन्होंने जिन लोगों का इंतखाब किया इस पर बोलने के लिए या इसकी वो तशरीह के लिए, इसकी वजाहत के लिए, वो और काबिल मुबारकबाद है कि इन्होंने प्रोफेसर चंद्रशेखर साहब को और पद्मश्री अब्दुल वहीद साहब का इंतखाब किया कि उन्होंने साइंस, तिब, फलसनामा और इन तमाम चीज़ों की जो खासकर ये समझा जाता है कि इसका ताल्लुक फारसी से नहीं है, इसका ताल्लुक ज़बान से नहीं है, इसका ताल्लुक इस फील्ड से नहीं है, लेकिन जिस तरह उन्होंने उसकी तशरीह की, उसकी वजाहत की, उसे इस तरह रिलेट किया, मैं इन दोनों हजरात का दिल की गहराइयों से मुबारकबाद देता हूँ और इनका शुक्रिया अदा करता हूँ कि इन्होंने जहमत फरमाई और यहाँ तशरीफ़ लाए। और ये तहकीक या तर्जुमा या तशरीह जब खामोश रहती है तो ये मुहक्किक की ज़बान बनती है, तरवीज़ की ज़बान बनती है, इरशाद की ज़बान बनती है, और जब ये बोलने पे उतर आती है तो ये सैयद निसार हुसैन बन जाती है। आपने उनकी ज़बान देखी, उनकी गुफ्तार देखी, उनका बयान देखा कि किस तरह उन्होंने इस चीज़ों को किस अच्छे अंदाज में उन्होंने पेश किया। मैं उनका भी दिल की गहराइयों से उन्हें मुबारकबाद देता हूँ और उनका शुक्रिया अदा करता हूँ। और इस प्रोग्राम के इनकाद के लिए जिस तरह से डॉक्टर शकील अहमद साहब, पूर्व वाइस चांसलर मौलाना आज़ाद यूनिवर्सिटी ने दिलचस्पी ली और इसे कामयाब बनाया, मैं उनका दिल की गहराइयों से बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया अदा करता हूं। और इसमें शिरकत करने वाले वो तमाम लोग जो दूर दराज से आए हुए हैं, शहर के बाहर से आए हुए हैं और शहर से आए हुए हैं, खासकर ये डॉक्टर प्रोफेसर जाफरी साहब जो इलाहाबाद से तशरीफ़ लाए हुए हैं, अख्तर साहब जो JNU से तशरीफ़ लाए हुए हैं, बारी साहब जो जामिया हमदर्द से तशरीफ़ लाए हुए हैं, बाकी जायसी साहब, प्रोफेसर रहमतुल्लाह साहब, प्रोफेसर नसीम साहब, प्रोफेसर वाहिद साहब, प्रोफेसर शाहिद साहब, वसीम बेगम और तमाम हज़रात का मैं फ़र्दन शुक्रिया अदा करता हूँ कि आपने ज़हमत फरमाई और इस प्रोग्राम को कामयाब करने में हमें हमारी मदद की। हम हर शख्स का फ़र्दन शुक्रिया अदा करते हैं। थैंक यू।